welcome to Kirin Rise University. I am Ed Cruz, and today for our lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about plum flower. If you can see behind me, I have somewhat of a plum flower shape. Actually, it's a plum flower shape. It's not the standard pose that you normally see, but I'm going to explain a little bit about this to you and how you can actually use this in your footwork. All right, change your perspective here so you can actually see what I'm trying to do. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you probably watched like old Kung Fu movies in the past, the plum flower itself, and you can type this on Google if you want to see the actual physical shape of it, is basically different ways to look at it. You could either do it like the 5 posts, like the old Kung Fu style, where there's maybe like it's off maybe a foot or so off the ground or higher and stuff like that. And basically, I'm going to show you a drill that you can do even if you don't have the correct setup. Now, people have asked me, would you actually train with it? Like for example, 2 people on the plum flower itself. Like for example, if I was, let's say, assuming this was a little bit closer to each other, and I'm just going to do a guideline. If these were 2 stands here, and then you would cheese out with one another and fight with each other like that, okay? It can be done, but it's not necessary to be done. In actuality, there is a purpose for the plum flower design as far as the footwork. The main thing to remember about the footwork here is that you want to work around the center area, okay? So for example, and this isn't exactly perfectly in place, but so for example, don't think of it as far as, okay, these are posts, I'm standing on the post and I'm just adjusting myself from here and so forth like that. Don't think of it in that manner, because if you don't have that, can you do it that way? You can, but in reality, to practice the footwork is basically this, to work around the position. So for example, if I do forward step here, right? I can do forward step and adjust myself in this position. See how I'm adjusting for myself from here? Boom. 180, step, and so forth. So you're basically working your way all the way around this position for the plum flower itself. Remember, you're not actually off the ground like they do have designs for that off the ground, because you're really working on your center of gravity all the time. And a lot of people think that to enhance the center of gravity, if you're working on like what is that? Some people have like a balancing beam or something like, or a balancing stool, and they're working on their center of gravity. It's not necessary to do that. The best way to work on your center of gravity is a standard flat surface, and you've got to recognize your basically where your center of gravity is. If it's leaning forward, back, or side to side. That's really the best way. When you're using stuff that like to rock on, you're actually engaging muscles that it's not necessary like that. Real good center of gravity control starts from the flat ground on. Because when you practice your still and tau, right? When you're practicing your still and tau, why do we practice like this? We practice still and tau stationary first. We're not practicing on one leg, or we're not doing still and tau movement. There is a main function and reason behind that. So, getting back to the idea of what you're trying to develop is that just constant motion like this. Now, in this example, I'm going here, then you can, from here, change from one side, adjust, brace, turn, and step. See how I'm always coming around and changing, and so forth. You can do it this way. Now, if you don't need these cones, you can actually just put markers on the ground itself, like flat pieces of paper to just know exactly where you're at. And you can do the same thing from going step slide here. For example, this is in the way, but step slide, turn, and then you're coming around, brace, and right from here 180, and so forth. So you can see how the main goal is to actually rotate and work your way around this thing. So there's no set rule other than the fact that you don't want to end up with the final stance basically here, right? You're basically pivoting all around the sections, the middle point, and so forth when you work on the footwork. Now, this is all fine and dandy at the end of the day, right? Let me move these first. At the end of the day, Wing Chun doesn't need that much room. You've got a 5x5 section, right? 5x5 section here. The main footwork that you want to work on when you're doing that is basically freestyle footwork, right? If I'm doing freestyle footwork back and forth, turning all the way around, you need a small section, and you can practice different kinds of footworks and so forth. That's really all you need. So a lot of times we get caught up on, okay, we need to get this and that for training in Wing Chun. you don't really need much Wing Chun. Wing Chun training basically is the dummy. You eventually need some kind of dummy, stationary object. You need a sword and also a pole. And that's pretty much it. The most vital things that you do in Wing Chun is basically solo training with the dummy and then with the partner, okay? Other than that, everything else you don't need. Anything as far as bands, doing any kind of calisthenics with it, not necessary at all. You want to develop yourself, you want to develop natural motion and so forth. So while it's all cool and dandy to watch on the Kung Fu movie where everyone's standing on here and then they're fighting and battling and so forth, 100% not necessary at all, okay? You can use the demonstration I gave you as far as working at Footwork, and if you don't have that, like I said, you got a 5x5 area, even lesser than that, you can use all 16 footworks in Wing Chun and just get by with that, all right? Later.